Well, hello, and welcome to Trash with a capital T, where we give trashy books and movies the love they truly deserve. I'm your host, Bobby. New videos are posted here every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So today, I finally am introducing anime and manga to the channel. I have been trying to figure out the best entryway, what would be a good series to talk about that kind of fits the themes on here, and kind of what I enjoy reading. And over the holidays, I bought myself a stack of manga because it seemed like perfect holiday reading. And I ended up reading a title called Oshi no Ko by Akasaka and Mengo Yokoyari. And I was really impressed by this manga. Like, I was truly blown away by the writing, by the art, everything. And also, because, and this might lead to some people having some spoilers, so I am going full spoiler in this review. But a big reason I think I fell for this one so hard is because it reminded me of one of my all-time favorite films. Not just animated films. Films. I've seen this movie probably 30 times. Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue. Now, these are very different. Perfect Blue is a very violent, intense thriller that mixes in some like twisted sexuality and really goes to be like get in your skin and like have you off kilter. Oshi no Ko takes a different approach while still covering a lot of the same material. So before we get too far, let's just get over the general premise. The general premise of Oshi no Ko is a pop star comes to a rural hospital. Her OBGYN, who turns out to be a huge fan, recognizes her and learns that the 16-year-old is pregnant with twins, and if anyone finds out, her career is over. So he promises to take care of her and her babies and ensure that no one finds out and that she has a safe delivery and that her kids are okay. Problem is, before he can actually be there for the delivery, he is brutally murdered and his body is dumped in the woods. But, as luck would have it, he is then reincarnated as one of the twins. So his mom is now Ai Hoshino, his favorite pop star. And his sister, his twin sister, is also a reincarnated fan. A young woman we meet very early on who had passed away named Serena, who actually is the one who introduced Goro, that's the OBGYN, to Ai Hoshino. So, two fans are now the twin children of this pop idol. And we follow them as they grow up with Ai as a mom and kind of what they have to do to keep the kids out of the spotlight and not reveal that Ai is a mother and like to keep her career growing. But we also learn that the kids are kind of magical. Because even at a young age, they can communicate fully, not just with each other, but with everyone else. They also are a little more mobile than most toddlers would be, which includes them doing some glow stick dancing during a concert that kind of causes a stir. There's a lot of humor in here and there's a lot of heart, but it also has a dark side. And that is part of the reason I like this. While the setup is very goofy and there are some kind of off-color jokes and hints at kind of a little bit of dirty humor, specifically when it comes to breastfeeding, they avoid the creators of this avoid going too far into that and losing the heart of the story. The twins that are born, the boy is Aquamarine and the girl is Ruby. So we follow Aquamarine, Ruby, and Ai as Ai's career progresses and the children grow up. And the tragedy that'll eventually push both of the kids into the entertainment industry. While the premise is goofy, the writing is surprisingly mature. The backstory for some of the characters is heartbreaking. There is a maturity in the actual writing itself that surprised me. I wasn't ready for it. And I knew I was in for something good just from the opening monologue. There's a lot of internal monologue that we get because we spend time not only in Aqua's head, but we also spend time in Ruby's head and we spend time in Ai's head and we learn about these characters and their past because both of the kids are bringing in whole other lives into this life. And that shapes how they interact and view Ai. Eventually, they start by looking at her as this pop idol, this person that they adore because of her musical talent and her performance on stage. But eventually, they do end up viewing her as their mother. And they truly do love her. And one of the ongoing themes in this volume is the idea of love, of basically the love a fan and a pop star can have, that contract between them, and how that can go toxic, and the love between a parent and a child. Because not only are we seeing Ai and her children, we also learn that Ai did not really have a parental figure growing up. She was a foster child who was kind of moved through the system. She did not have an easy life. She never really knew what love felt like. And she became a pop idol because and the idea of faking it until you making it, of loving her fans or telling her fans that she loves them, and hopefully eventually really feeling that back and feeling it towards them. And it's not something, now I already knew this was really good, and this is obviously not your typical like Shonen Jump title or something like that. You're not, and that's not saying those titles are bad or cannot have emotional depth, but this one, goofiness aside, is definitely written for an older audience. It feels like it's written to be a little more mature, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's actually part of the reason I enjoyed it so much, because the darkness that kind of seeps underneath everything, and the toxicity of some of these fans that claim ownership over these pop idols, really becomes unsettling. And since I already said we're going to go into spoilers, it results in Ai's murder. That scene in particular is quite hard to read. It was quite shocking. It's not exceptionally violent. She opens the door. She hears a knock at her door, opens the door, and is stabbed. The problem is it happens in front of Aqua. He watches his mother bleed to death, and sees this. The way it's handled, the monologue she has as she's dying to her killer, is shockingly effective. The final moments between her and her children is heartbreaking. It's really well done, and it sets the tone for the rest of the story. Because now we have a mystery. Because Aqua realizes no one knew what apartment they were in, except for the management, who would never do this to Ai. They're basically Ai's family. And their father. Someone we've never met. Someone who's always been out of the picture. Even though Ai has tried to get him to meet the kids. So Aqua has made it his mission to find his father and to get his revenge for his mother's death, because he is very sure that his father is the one who tipped off the fan as to not only the pregnancy and the existence of the kids, but her location, with the intent of causing her harm. Yeah, very dark ending, not what I was expecting. There were other heartfelt moments in here, specifically involving Ruby, who in her original life was a girl, not a woman. She was 12. A girl named Serena, who was terminally ill, and she always dreamed of being a pop idol like I. She dreamed of having the ability to dance and to run around and have fun. And you get this whole chapter where suddenly she realizes she can, and I is teaching her how to dance, and it's this sweet bonding moment between them that has, again, that emotional gut punch that I wasn't expecting. Highly recommend this one. There's actually not that much objectionable content in it, so what did they rate it? They rated it older teen for language and violence. Yeah, it is dark, but like, there's nothing in here that actually made me go, oh, wow. Like, if a 13-year-old read this, other than the maturity of the story, I think they'd be perfectly fine. Now, I don't know what happens later in the series, or if the content might get a little more intense, but I was just blown away at the writing, at the way it was done, the panel layout. The panel layout in this is exceptional. It flows so well. Part of what I look for with manga is the ability for me to kind of like flow through it without having to stop too much, because I want to have the dialogue, the writing mix with the visuals in a way that it almost feels like I'm not missing one part or the other. I've run into manga. A good example is Angel Sanctuary, where the page is so cluttered because the writing is so overly done and there's so much going on and you can't follow the flow. You have to stop and really like focus on each little piece, and it kills the momentum for me. This one, it just flows right through. The writing also, I keep coming back to the maturity of it, because the voice that they use for a lot of these characters, because they're older, feels very grown up, but it also feels very thoughtful, very contemplative. And that's not something I experience in a lot of manga, because a lot of manga is written for younger audiences. That doesn't mean you can't have that depth there, but there is an adultness to the writing that is usually not included in a lot of titles that are focused on teenage characters. That's just because the character voice is younger. And I was very I welcomed that because it's something as an adult, as a grown adult, that I kind of was like yearning for. The opening of this, I absolutely love the opening. It's really short. We're in Guru. That's the man who eventually dies and becomes Aqua. We're in his head, so it's kind of Aqua's head. And he just says, this story is fiction. Actually, most of this world is fiction. It's fabricated, exaggerated. Anything that might reflect badly on the overall illusion is neatly covered up. That being the case, an idol fan is by definition somebody who wants to be lied to. In show business, lies are a weapon. The uncontested ace of the idol group, B. Kamachi. Oh, and that's when he's talking about I. But I love that. I love the writing and it carries an ominousness to it too. I don't know if that's a word, ominousness. But it has this ominous feeling to it like, hey, as goofy and light as this story feels, there is other stuff going on under the surface. So prepare yourself. I highly recommend Oshi no Ko. This was stunningly good. It's mature storytelling using a goofy premise to really, really ease the reader in and then drop some emotional bombs on them. So I recommend checking it out. And if you enjoyed this and you are older and can handle more violent material, more intense material, I definitely recommend Perfect Blue from Satoshi Kon. Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue takes the similar premise. Oof, almost fell out. So Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue takes a similar premise where we are following a pop idol who is early on in her career. And she is being driven into some choices that she wouldn't have made on her own, but because she's a people pleaser and because she wants to be successful, she decides to go along with it, which means she starts engaging in material that she's not comfortable with. And her fans also don't like her new image. And things start getting a little stabby. This one is dark. It gets under your skin. It is violent and raw, a good comparison. It has a feeling almost of like a giallo, like a Dario Argento film. It also alludes to some throwbacks to things like Basic Instinct. Perfect Blue is based off of the book Perfect Blue, Complete Metamorphosis by Yoshikazu Takeuchi. I have read the book. It was translated into English. I think there's an audiobook out. I enjoyed the book. The book is very different. The book is more of a straightforward thriller with like Silence of the Lamb vibes. Mima is a very different character, but that's actually what made me enjoy the book, is it is such a different experience. And so if you get a chance to read it, I highly recommend it. Perfect Blue, the film, is one that sets out to kind of get the audience as off kilter as the main character. This is a character who starts to lose connection to her identity and to the world around her. She's never entirely sure what's in her head, what's really going on, because one of that the fans are using against her, or a specific fan is using against her as she's moving, as her career is changing, is they have created a blog called Mima's Room, where they account parts of her day, but she doesn't write the blog. They know things they shouldn't know, but that's not her. And fans react to this blog like it is her, and it kind of makes her question, is she still Mima? Is she still this person? And you have this darkness that creeps in, and it's so effective. Now, unlike Oshi no Ko, which is very restrained and more of its purient, like R-rated material, this Oshi no Ko is like PG-13. This one definitely earned its R rating. Actually, I think the original rating was NC-17. There are some pretty intense scenes in there. We're not talking hardcore pornography. This is nothing you wouldn't see on like an HBO movie or show or like a Netflix series, but it still deals with subjects like sexual assault and coercion. There's a point where Mima is interviewed by a photographer who is famous for getting his interview subjects to pose nude. And those pictures are splashed everywhere. And that's quite alarming to her because it's not something she ever wanted to happen. She wanted to be a pop idol. So there's a darkness in this film that you definitely don't have in Oshi no Ko. But if you like that kind of the dark underbelly of the Japanese pop idol scene, check this out. Satoshi Kon was one of the greatest anime directors out there. His films are classics. He passed away very young, sadly, but he left behind an amazing legacy, and one of his most notable ones, one of his earliest ones, was Perfect Blue. And I adore this film, and I highly recommend it. And it pairs very well with Oshi no Ko. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap that up there because this video is going on a little longer than I intended. Okay, so as I always say, love what you love, enjoy what you're reading or watching, and have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. And if you like what you saw, give me a thumbs up. Makes me feel good and helps the channel. And if you want to see more, subscribe. I got new stuff coming out all the time. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.